You know, being an ostensible adult in the room, as internet movie critics goes these days, mostly means that your reasons you're supposed to be mad or not mad about things moves too fast for you to keep track of. So help me out here, kids. Am I supposed to be for Turning Red because dumb assholes still parroting Christopher Lucy's Call-Out-style bullshit because Pixar made a movie about Asian teenage girls instead of anthropomorphic allegories for middle-aged male anxiety, got mad about it? Or am I supposed to be against it because the new Disney CEO shoved his foot in his mouth on that Republican hate bill in Florida and I need to show my good allyship by shaming random people on social media who are still happy about specific parts of the Panda movie instead of taking it out on the corporation? In any case, Turning Red, as older viewers likely guessed from the trailers and younger viewers will likely never care about either way, is essentially movie number 500-something since I Was a Teenage Werewolf to look at the Wolfman mythology and say, hey, that kind of looks like a metaphor for puberty, and more distinctively, movie number, well, 2, pretty much, to run with that premise and turn it into an actual good film. This is an adorable, unique, very different, refreshing change of pace for Disney, Pixar, and Western animation in general that takes what feels like a lot of familiar fantasy comedy beats and makes them feel new and exciting simply by affording welcome new perspective. Big winner in this one.
Yes!
Set in 2002 Toronto, our protagonist is Chinese-Canadian 8th grader named Meilin Lee, who at 13 years old believes she has her life pretty much perfectly balanced as a straight-A student capable of maintaining a casually extroverted overachiever existence at school and hanging out doing regular tween stuff with her loyal friend group, but also being the ideally behaved, genuinely eager to pitch in and help only daughter to her doting dad and strict but loving mom at their family business operating a tourist attraction, Chinese spiritualist temple, downtown Toronto. All this balance and self-management skills seemingly attributable to May, despite having turned 13 and very eager to declare herself a grown-up, not having joined her friends in the distractions of full-blown adolescent awakenings, save for their shared obsession with a massively popular boy band called Four Town, whose impending Toronto concert eventually becomes the film's requisite ticking clock storyline. But on the occasion that May finally does experience the first stirrings of, well, something like her first crush, or really the impressions of one coupled with more general plot-specific growing pangs and anxieties, she gets some complicated news. Women in her family, owing to a genetic lineage passed down by a warrior priestess ancestor on reaching their teens, are gifted, after a fashion, with a power that causes them to transform into gigantic magical red pandas when they experience strong emotions. Once it begins, a special family ritual can be conducted to exorcise the panda spirit, but it has to wait for a specific celestial date, which means May will have to keep her panda under control for, about the time it'll take for some B and C storylines mirroring her overall character arc and the broader narrative to play out before coming together in a resolution. And what? It's a Pixar movie, not Tenet. So yes, you can tell where most of the story is leading, but getting there is a lot of fun, and the Act 2 plot complications are honest and different enough to make it all pretty clever and lively, taking a page from Teen Wolf's subversion of the original gag, in terms of, actually, teenagers would probably decide this was cool. May's friends and schoolmates immediately think Panda May is the greatest thing ever, leading her and her friends to hatch a scheme to exploit the situation to make money in order to buy tickets for the impending Four Town concert, which she has, of course, been forbidden from attending.
Do you know how dangerous this is? You'll get whipped up into a frenzy and panda all over. Abby, hit me.
It all feels extremely authentic and earnest, and I have to wonder if, while one can't discount the obvious instances of race and gender bias and the frankly baffling backlash this generated pre-release in some quarters of the animation fandom, I can't help but wonder if it's also worth considering how much of it might be reflex response to a movie that's sincerely, passionately nostalgic for early 2000s tween culture, when so much of modern smart and good pop culture defined itself as being in exact opposition to that. What I mean is, the heroines, plural, of this film are middle school girls circa 2002 who speak to each other in fluent TRL slang, worship a Backstreet Boys-style band. One of them is reading what's clearly meant to be Twilight when we meet her, and it's not called out as a joke, it's just a thing she's doing. They're dialed into the core mainstream of tween girl entertainment of that era, aka the punchline of every stuff that was wrong with pop culture take or framing you would have found in the then emergent alt culture discourse that took hold of the early internet and utterly dominates every level of entertainment and culture journalism, now set itself up as the quote-unquote curative agent against, both at the respectable millennial music, art, and YA literature as a creative void establishment entertainment press level, and the being generally mean to girls on the internet level foundational web media.
We're here to help.
But now here's Turning Red being every bit as achingly earnest about nostalgia for being a 13-year-old girl in 2002 and having been Team Edward and Bye 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 or whatever being the anthem of your friend group, texting in primitive emoji speak on flip phones, etc., as every other nostalgia movie in our callback-saturated culture has been about mid-80s Amblin movies, hair metal, and Atari references. I mean, I'm just saying it's not super shocking, maybe, that some of the same internet cool kid film snob culture that generally lionizes Pixar, except for their NASCAR movie, bounced off this one a bit when its aesthetic is so celebratory of a moment in time that culture built so much of its identity around tearing down. Worth thinking about. Still, the winning aesthetic and genuine delightfulness of the Studio Ghibli meets the Muppets Panda itself will only get you so far, and Turning Red's main story, as you probably guessed, comes down to the more serious stuff playing out between Mai and her mother, whose well-meaning but way over-the-top helicopter mom parenting is clearly much more at the root of what's brought out the panda in the first place, but also has its roots in a darker backstory of her own and expands out into both a wildly creative third act, but also gives the middle section its meatiest character beats. Yes, there's been a lot of focus on the decision to make the puberty subtext simply text, and how refreshing it is for there to be a scene, played for comic misunderstanding or not, in a Disney family movie where a mother and daughter are matter-of-factly talking about periods and pads, and I guess, yeah, I had never considered how seldom you see that particular product on screen in anything and how, weird that is. But beyond that, there's a dynamic that isn't typical of so many other stories like this, where the line between the kid who wants to break off and be free and the overprotective parent is here changed up and flipped around. May doesn't dislike her parents or start out wanting to rebel against anything, and there's a reason within her mother's unreasonableness that puts both of them in the we should have probably been honest and talked about this stuff sooner seat by the end. Not that it all still can't wrap up happily, it's just more nuanced dynamic than we're used to, and there's so much to like here. It's got a vibrant palette, the characters are dynamic and bouncy, comedy has real youthful energy where the mostly child characters feel like actual kids instead of miniature adults, and there's heart to the family scenes, and genuine affection for the simple, silly, but important when you're that age moments with the kids. It's just a terrific little movie. 8 out of 10, really love this one, check it out.